Pacers have absolutely fucked up and warped my mind because with 4 minutes left in the game, the Thunder were up 17 after a Haliburton corner three, and I could just sense the seance that was going on in the background, some devil magic brewing. But OKC ended up closing it out. Much better game offensively. They didn't have a 10th percentile jump shooting game, but first I want to touch on the Pacers really quick. I know the Pacers have a very unique style of play, right? And, a lot of times it's not predicated on one person dominating the ball unless that person obviously has the hot hand and what have you. But Tyrese Haliburton, and I'm saying this at the risk of sounding like a hot take sports radio guy, hot take artist, but Tyrese Haliburton is the best player on the Pacers, and at the risk of sounding like a hot take artist or whatever, or giving simplistic basketball analysis, because sometimes you need some simplicity in the basketball analysis, Tyrese Haliburton cannot keep having these games where he floats out, and I understand the Pacers like to use Haliburton as a spacer a lot of times because the Pacers like to do a lot of 4-on-4 or get a 3-on-3 depending on how they space Siakam and Haliburton and utilize their gravity that way. That was not one of those types of games to me. To me, Tyrese Haliburton, one, you have to give credit to Oklahoma City's defense. The pickup point on Haliburton was much higher than game one. They collapsed the paint whenever Haliburton got inside. 5 turnovers, really just spectacular defense. But I also thought there were times where Haliburton just, was out of the plate, didn't make himself present. Not even guard screens, something to get himself going, because having 3 points at halftime and 3 turnovers, almost as many turnovers as points, that just can't happen. Because to me, the best version of the Pacers has always been, and I think this has been true since Haliburton first stepped foot in Indiana, is him striking that incredible balance of being an aggressive scorer and being one of the best playmakers in the NBA while also being one of the lowest turnover guys in the NBA. Haliburton can shoot from 3 really deep. He can get floaters off. Yeah, his handle's a little bit more functional than you would think, but he still gets by people. He still uses deception to get by people. The Pacers have ways to get him going downhill, and he was really just absent for a lot of it. And then he increased his aggressive scoring in the fourth quarter, which was actually kind of annoying. I'd be annoyed if I was a Pacers fan. And I'm not asking Tyrese Haliburton to average 30. I am definitely not saying that. I'm just saying he just wasn't as in control of the game as I thought he could have been. Now, again, a lot of it also was OKC's defense. I mean, there are a lot of times where Thunder defenders would just pass him off to another Thunder defender whenever an action happened, and there was just length and athleticism everywhere. The Thunder, I thought, Mark Daigneault finally incorporated some double big in there, kept the same starting lineup as game one, but this time was able to find some pockets where Chet Holmgren could come in and play with Hartenstein, especially that one stretch where Haliburton was off the court to start the second quarter, and the Thunder outscored the Pacers by, I think, 12 points. But Mark Daigneault was able to find pockets to get the double big lineup in there. The Thunder were not as, vulnerable on the glass as they were in game one. They out-rebounded the Pacers 50-48. Also crashed the glass a little bit. Got a little bit better offensive rebounding from some of the guards, too. Isaiah Hartenstein, of course, in his minutes, had 3 offensive rebounds. Really impactful, Isaiah Hartenstein. Chet Holmgren also got more comfortable, I thought. I thought to start the game, especially Jalen Williams and Chet Holmgren, I thought they were a little antsy. Jalen Williams was fumbling the ball all game, which was really weird. But Chet Holmgren was trying to do too much a little bit, and then he finally settled in, got a layup, got a few threes. By the way, Chet Holmgren, I feel like he leads the playoffs in threes where it's actually, oh no, he had a foot on the line, so it's a 2. But I actually thought this game, it was a more sound performance from OKC defensively. Now, in game one, the first half, that was just a display of we're taking your shit. And that was like an incredible display of that. But I just thought as far as discipline, even though the game was called a little bit tighter, I thought the Thunder's rotations were incredible. They were giving up some corner threes to start the game, and the Pacers were, keeping pace with them in the first quarter, pun intended. But as the game went along, the Thunder defense were able to close out faster, lunge. They were able to have better, marking points where they could stand towards the nail and then just fly out to the corner to try to contest. Their contest on corner threes got better as the game went along. But when it comes to rotations, I thought Mark Daigneault was actually a little bit more cleaner. Aaron Wiggins and Kenrich Williams got, consistent burn this time, whereas opposed to game one, I think Kenrich only played 33 seconds. Aaron Wiggins only played 1 minute. But Aaron Wiggins is one of those guys that when he gets going from three, when the Thunder bench guys can get going from three, Caruso made 4 as well, that's when the Thunder are just unbeatable, especially with their combination of defense. And even though Jalen Williams, I thought, J-Dub I'm talking about, played better in this one, I still thought there were just some signs of erratic decision-making and maybe, especially at the beginning, he wasn't really settled in. But it felt like he got better as the game went along. And Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, what else is there to say, man? This guy's fucking good. Stop playing with my dog SGA. He is having one of the best runs that a guard has had in NBA history. Yeah, there were some up and downs in these playoffs, but the one constant on the Thunder has been Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And the Pacers just really have nobody that can stay in front of him. Nembhard and Nesmith, they did really well in that second quarter. They kind of sparked that Pacers 10-0 run. And I feel like that's where the devil magic starts with the Pacers in these comebacks sometimes. Nesmith and Nembhard will make some giant defensive plays, play aggressive defense for the entire shot clock and force a stop or something like that. And then they sprint down the court, and on the other end, Nesmith hits a movement three. Nesmith was on fire today from three, by the way. Nembhard starts driving to the basket once he gets his three-pointer going, because for some reason he's better at shooting threes in the playoffs than in the regular season, give or take these last few games going back to the Knicks series. That's when the devil magic, I feel, really starts for the Pacers. But other than that, Oklahoma City was sound defensively. They were able to collapse the Pacers' defense with just multiple kickouts, driving kicks. Really felt like an old school, quintessential last 2 years Thunder type of game where the driving kicks just lead to something else, and then they started sending help over to Shai early, and that's where you get the immediate outlet pass, swing, corner three to Alex Caruso. Or there was one play where Shai was on the block. I think it was against Ben Shepherd, but threw it cross court to J-Dub, who then threw it to Aaron Wiggins, who was on fire tonight, 5 of 8 from 3. Just overall better ball movement. Shai wasn't as super aggressive in this one. He took 21 shots, but I thought the Pacers did a poor job of keeping him off the line, and there were legit fouls in there. This was not grifting. There was one possession where Shai tried to grift in the fourth quarter. It was on Nembhard, I believe, and he kind of flailed and then fell out of bounds or whatever. But other than that, this was one of those quintessential that boy hooping games, he's out there hooping. Now, if I'm a Pacers fan, obviously, I'm happy I got the split. We got home court advantage now, but I would be also concerned that outside of the last 2 minutes of game one, I have been outplayed for the rest of it. Even in game one where Oklahoma City shot really poorly from the field, the Thunder still outplayed the Pacers. They were swarming everywhere, forced 20 turnovers in the first half. Pacers, of course, played better in the second half, took care of the ball, but the Thunder were in control for a lot of that game. And then the Pacers' comeback happens. So you obviously are happy. You take the wins as they go, right? You never question a W. But there are some concerning things like, I got to find ways to get Tyrese Haliburton going. I got to find ways to get Pascal Siakam to take advantage of some of these switches or not even switches. They are starting Cason Wallace on Pascal. They are putting Lou Dort on him. They have put Caruso on him. That's probably the defender that spent the second most time on Siakam behind Cason Wallace. And they haven't been as effective. Siakam, of course, has gotten to the line via crashing the offensive glass. There has been ways he has used his size to impact the game, but forcing him to go 3 of 11 from the field, while all the OKC smalls are basically his primary defender, that's got to make me feel queasy if I'm a Pacers fan. Because as much as I love Obi Toppin, he's not going to have a game 1 all the time where he shoots like 5 of 8 from 3. He was 1 of 5 tonight. I am absolutely worried that Thomas Bryant, outside of the hot shooting stretch he has had these last 2 games, missed his only 3 tonight. And while he is energetic and definitely can provide some rebounding, just isn't good enough defensively. And weirdly enough, you could feel Tony Bradley's absence. And the Pacers also have to find a way to just, I don't know, they have to set the screens higher, do what Oklahoma City did in this game. That was another thing I noticed. Oklahoma City set their screens a lot higher towards the half-court line in the logo, and Isaiah Hartenstein got Shea loose a few times. Shea, by the way, today was absolutely in his handle bag, splitting the double teams. The Pacers' defense in terms of sending help towards Shea has kind of been poor because Shea just splits it and then gets in the paint, and then it's fucking hell from there. The Pacers have a lot of stuff to clean up before I think they can fully take advantage of the fact that they now have home court advantage. They've really only been the better team for 2 minutes out of this series. Now, of course, there are some things they can continue to do as these games go forward, like Miles Turner being able to score off of the pick and roll or the pick and pop, because Hartenstein's going to drop before he goes out to contest. So is Chet Holmgren. I actually think Miles Turner is a little bit bigger than Chet Holmgren, and he bullied him a few times on some drives. Was unsuccessful on some of them, but I think that's something that can get Chet in foul trouble, messes up OKC's rotations and their versatility a little bit. So there are things the Pacers can do to pick at the Thunder, but they need to do it or execute a little bit better. The problem is, though, this defense is fucking great. And it's hard. So what I am saying is easier said than done. But what I have said, the Pacers have done all playoffs. And have done it against all the best teams, especially in the Eastern Conference with the 60-win Cavs and then the New York Knicks. But this is a different monster. And that requires a different level of concentration and execution. And I'm sorry, I got the rebounding count totally wrong. The Pacers had 35 offensive rebounds. The Thunder had 43 and had 11 offensive rebounds total. Anyway, the Pacers are going to have to find a way to get the 20 to 25 and 10 Tyrese Haliburton out there, because that's when the Pacers are at their best, and they need to be at their best to beat this type of defense. Because like I said, even when OKC's offense sputters, they have an all-time great defense to make up for the margin of error. And while the Pacers have a good defense, they have an elite offense, but that elite offense and its potency is also dependent on Tyrese Haliburton striking the balance that all point guards have to deal with of being the playmaker, low turnover guy and the aggressive scorer.